Erick Salgado, who is joining us. And I'm going to briefly recap the forum and the format so that Erick knows what's going on. Erick, the organizations here today are Democracy for New York City, Act Now, and Living Liberally. There are 3 progressive organizations with allies and friends, and this is being videotaped to be shared with more progressives beyond the room tonight. My name is Justin Krebs. I'm the founder of Living Liberally. I'm also involved with The Tank, which is the venue that you're at right now. And again, I want to remind everyone that The Tank is a nonprofit space. It has donated the venue for this evening. And if you want to help support The Tank and make sure we can continue our nonprofit mission, you can donate in the donation box on the way out or sign the guest book up at the bar. There are 25 minutes for you to join us. The questions have all been submitted from the audience. They've been sifted on the side and brought to me. You'll be asked some of the same questions that previous candidates have been asked, some new ones specific for you, and we'll just go from there. I encourage you to keep answers relatively brief so we can cover a lot of topics. At the end, I'll give you a heads up when it's the final question, after which you'll get to do an answer, and then you'll have a 1-minute closing statement. So, before we jump into the questions, how about a quick introduction? Let us know who you are and why we should be excited about your campaign.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erick Salgado, and I am honored to be here participating in this forum. I want to thank Act Now and Democracy for New York City and Living Liberal for the sponsorship of this forum. We all understand that New York City is going through a very difficult time in the past few years, and this election is going to be one of the most important ones in the last decades. Therefore, we have to make sure that we have forums like this so we can all learn about the different issues that different candidates have and the idea that they have to resolve the problem of all New Yorkers. We understand that this great city deserves and needs a mayor who understands the different needs and the different issues and how to formulate and implement many policies, innovative policies, necessary to meet the different challenges. We need a mayor that is ready to act now, immediately, right after the oath, so we could all work together. We don't have enough time to be learning about the issue, therefore we have to make sure that we choose the right candidate. I know there's many career politicians running in this race. I am not a career politician, I am a community leader. I have worked for more than 24 years in community service in the city. I was born in New York, in the Bronx. My parents came from Puerto Rico in 1926, and I am proud to be a Latino. I understand the struggle that many New Yorkers have to go day by day to be able to feed their family, call their family. Therefore, I believe that the combination that I have as a community leader, as a small business owner, enable me to be able to work with many of the situations that the New York are going through today. Therefore, I am running for mayor and I'm trying to do everything in my power to be able to unite New York. Everybody from different race, from different ethnics. At the end, we all are New Yorkers. Yes, we all are New Yorkers.
Thank you. The first question is the same question that we asked each of the previous candidates, and it's a 2-part question. It has to do with the mixed record of the current mayor. If you're elected, what parts of the Bloomberg agenda would you retain, and what would be one of the changes you do first as soon as you're elected into office?
Well, I believe I'm going to make sure that our streets are safe, that all New Yorkers feel safe and actually are safe. We have to make sure that we continue with the policy of keeping guns out of the street. Therefore, we're going to do many amnesties for people to be able to return guns to the different prisons. That's something I'm definitely going to keep from the Bloomberg administration. But on the other hand, I have to make sure that we face the different situations that we have among all the inhabitants of New York City. I'm going to make sure that more than 600,000 undocumented immigrants, they get registered because it's a law enforcement issue. We cannot just ignore more than 600,000 people who are living among us that perhaps might engage into criminal act and they don't have no kind of registration in this city. I'm going to make sure that all the undocumented immigrants will be registered and they're going to contribute to the progress of the city.
Great. You know, you brought up keeping our streets safe, and one of the questions that has been asked already tonight, but it's worth asking again, is how you feel about the current police commissioner and police department's relationship with civil liberties. And the question specifically was, what steps would you take as mayor to increase the oversight? Would you agree that there needs to be increased oversight of the next police commissioner and decrease civil liberties violations?
Well, I think that the number one goal of the government is to keep the city safe. We have to increase our police forces back to at least 37,000 police officers, because we cannot accept to go to the New York from the 70 or the 80. Everybody should be safe in the city, and I'm going to make sure that we're going to use policy that are not going to target you just for the way you look or the color of your skin, but they're going to target the criminal and take them out of the street.
Okay, so specifically about the stop and frisk policy, would you order the police department to stop the current stop and frisk policy?
Stop and frisk, the way it's being conducted by the current administration, they needs to stop. Nobody should be targeted for the color of the skin or the way you look. We have to make sure that our police officers, they are trained according to the different custom of the different culture that we have. We have to understand that more than 70% of New Yorkers, one way or other, they find themselves related to any ethnic group. And when you don't learn the idea and the dilemma among the different group, then you're going to have police officers that really do not understand the community that they are serving. A police officer who understands the community that he is working with, he could best protect.
This question has not been asked yet tonight, but do you favor a commuter tax?
Well, we have to understand that most of the people who are coming from places around New York City are not actually paying the same kind of tax that we are paying in the city. So therefore, I believe that we have to make sure that everybody contribute to the use of our street and our resources over here in the city.
So yes, on some form of commuter tax.
Yes.
Bill de Blasio was here earlier, and he spoke about a different tax he would raise. He would raise taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers. I don't remember the exact plan, I think it's 0.4% to pay for universal pre-K and after-school programs. So in addition to being supportive of some sort of commuter tax on those who don't live in the city, would you be supportive of some sort of tax increase on the wealthiest New Yorkers?
I think the most important thing to be able to save the Board of Education is to generate revenue. I believe that we have to encourage the non-for-profit organization to do better use of our facilities, so we could generate over $800 million by using the school facility. They are there, they're not being used. If we encourage this, for example, I went to Boricua College, and when I was taking my BA in early child education, most of the people, they were looking not to be working for the city. They were looking to open their own non-for-profit organization as a daycare, as a aftercare, as a sport tournament, and they could do that. But the number one obstacle for them to do that is to get the facility. It costs over $5,000 to be able to open a daycare center in any place in New York City. But we have the facility, so let's encourage those not-for-profit organizations to spend the money. That will create jobs, that will generate revenue that will be strictly used for the Board of Education, that will create, and ultimately is going to take our kids out of the streets.
Okay. Another question about our kids, and because this goes to your home borough of the Bronx. A member of our audience says that tonight they visited a friend at Lincoln Hospital who lives in the South Bronx and who has asthma. The asthma rates in this area of New York City are 8 times higher than the rest of the country. How do you feel we could reduce the asthma rates there? Specifically, this question asks, how do you feel about companies like Fresh Direct moving 1,000 more trucks in and out of the polluting area?
Believe me, I know about this issue. I was born in the Bronx and I was taken to Puerto Rico when I was 2 years old because I was suffering asthma. That's the reason why I couldn't be raised in this city. So I know about this issue. I love my accent, believe me. I speak with an accent, I don't think with an accent. I'm very intelligent and I love this city. And yes, we have to do something about the accent. I believe many people, they just come to New York City to go about their business. I know the MTA is raising the toll and they hunting everybody. And I believe that if they're gonna raise the toll, raise it for $20 and then give 50% to all New Yorkers and 75% to all the people who live in Staten Island. I live in Staten Island myself, and every time I cross that bridge, I feel the burden to cross it, because we have people who have raised that toll and yet they want to raise in their position in the city.
Okay, so in addition to raising tolls to try to reduce traffic, what other steps could we do to help increase the public health and reduce the asthma rates among our city youth?
The Brooklyn-Queen Expressway is an issue. We have to, and this is very important, we have to make sure that this traffic somehow goes, all that, the pollution generated by the traffic somehow gets eliminated. And the only way doing it is building, through the technology that we now have, roads that actually are gonna have those kind of issues taken care of.
You know, you mentioned technology in that answer. You're also the only candidate tonight who came to the stage with an iPad. So let's talk about technology for a moment. One of the areas that the Bloomberg administration is often praised is bringing tech entrepreneurship to the city, creating the Silicon Alley in New York that rivals only Silicon Valley as a center of tech entrepreneurship. Do you think that this has been a positive legacy? And if so, how would you continue it in your administration?
Well, I'm not a career politician, so I need help. I need my iPad handy, so I could, make sure that I have all my issues. Yes, we have to make sure that we have a better technology, especially in the school. It's unbelievable the way we are conducting our education. I spent 6 months doing my internship in a public school over here in Brooklyn, Brighton Beach to be specific. And I think there's so many things available right now in the technology world that we should be able to implement it to our system. And we have to make sure that we keep up with that.
So how would we do that? I think every candidate would agree we want more technology in schools, we want more improved technology in the city. Where would you do something different from the Bloomberg administration to make that happen?
Well, there's many ideas. For example, the meters, they just put a new system for the meter, but they left the pole on the street. There's a lot of things that needs to be started and finishes in the city, and according to the expert, we're going to overlook that and make sure that the best things are implemented in the cities.
Okay. Now, this may be then, I guess that answer in a way goes to a question that we're going to ask all the candidates, which is, what makes you able to do something different than the other candidates running for mayor? I think everyone's going to agree we want more technology in schools, we want to finish projects, we want to reduce asthma. Why would you be able to achieve it better than John Liu or Christine Quinn or Sal Albanese or Bill de Blasio?
I'm not a career politician. I am a community leader.
Sorry.
I'm a community leader. I have worked over 24 years helping the most vulnerable one in the city. I am the only candidate who's going to handle the situation with the more of the 600,000 to 1 million undocumented immigrants. We cannot ignore these people. They're living among us. It's a law enforcement issue. We have the example for the young coach for the Red Bull. He got slaughtered by an immigrant, and they were looking for him in an airplane. He was in the airplane, and they couldn't find him. These are the kind of situations that we can just not ignore. As Mayor Giuliani once said, the reality is that they are here, and they're going to remain here. And we cannot wait for the Congress and the President to decide what to do with them. As a mayor, I'm going to make sure that they're all going to contribute to the city. They're all going to pay federal taxes. They're going to be more responsible because they know they're going to be fingerprinted, so they have to behave according to our law. And at the same time, we're going to give them the opportunity to identify themselves. We have pets in this city, and they all have the medical record. And these people, they just ignore. That is unacceptable in a city that have been helping the most vulnerable one for many years. I am the only one that I'm going to bring these people out of the shower. They're going to pay a city fee tax that is going to contribute to the budgets of the city. They live in here, they have to contribute here, and they should be living a decent life. For example, after Superstorm Sandy, I was hoping the community of Brighton Beach and many of the people who live in illegal basement were undocumented immigrant. And when the FEMA inspector came to assess the damage, the landlord, they were afraid to get a violation by the city because they knew that the people who they have in the basement were living illegally. Why this kind of problem happening? Because these people, they cannot even deserve to have an ID. Let's give them an ID. I cannot legalize them, but let's give them an ID and make sure that they're going to contribute to our society, and the burn is going to be off from the people. Maybe we're going to be able to eliminate all the quota from the ticketing because these people, they're going to contribute to the budget of the city.
So one difference between you and other candidates that you would focus on is the ability to reach out to immigrant groups. Although I should note that I didn't know this until Sal Albanese is an immigrant as well, but obviously from a different generation. But another difference between you and the other candidates that the media has been covering has been about your views on abortion and same-sex marriage. Would you like to clarify where you stand on abortion and same-sex marriage for the audience?
Which one first?
Same-sex marriage.
I didn't know I was getting any media attention, so thank you. First of all, I'm a man of faith. I'm a pastor, and I have I believe in traditional value. However, as a mayor, I'm going to be a mayor for all New Yorkers. I'm going to abide the law. Same-sex marriage is a settled issue, and I think we have most important problem than same-sex marriage at this point. I am not against nobody. I'm for everybody, and I'm going to work for all New Yorkers. When Fernando Ferrer was trying to become the first Latino mayor, they say he was too liberal. Now they say I'm too conservative. I don't know what they want, but I think I'm going to be a fair mayor for all New Yorkers. I promise you that.
And then on the second issue brought up is just clarifying your views on abortion. While same-sex marriage is a settled issue, access to abortion through health care, protection of clinics, ensuring that they're safe for women who are seeking that choice, are an issue that the mayor is involved in. Where do you stand on that issue?
Abortion is a right that all women have, and it was granted by the federal government. However, when I see the statistic of abortion that goes to 60% in the African American community, and it goes 50% in the Hispanic community, I have to think that something is not right. When we are laying off more than 2,500 educators, teachers, because we don't have the budget to cover that, and yet we are running on Plan B, giving the money after bill to young child of 13 and 14 years old, without the consent of the parent. You could be pro-life or pro-choice. You have to know something is wrong with that. Definitely something is wrong with that. My priority will be to educate the kids, and without teacher, there's no school.
The one caveat I would note is I don't know the report that says 60% abortion rates in the African American community or 50% in the Hispanic community. So I don't want us to accept that as fact. I'm not going to ask you to bring it up now, nor can I bring up the alternative, but I would ask the people in this room to do the research and find out where that stat comes from. And if it's on your website as well, I'm sure people can find it there. Is that fair? I just have not heard that statistic, and I find it actually very hard to believe.
Oh, you could Google it.
I would still find it hard to believe, even if I Googled it. Let's go on to another question that has to do with the public health of the city. This is something that both previous candidates have spoken to. The paid sick leave bill that's before City Council right now. Where do you stand on the paid sick leave, and how would you ensure as mayor that all of our citizens and all of our workers are getting the time they need and the health care they need?
Believe me, my father, once I said again, came here in 1926. He's still alive. He lives in the Bronx. He's 91 years old. I love my father. I love my mother. And we have to make sure that those people, they get the treatment that they deserve. 3 months ago, I was called by the hospital, and they say that my father, because he have Alzheimer's, that he lost the ability to eat by himself. They say that they could put a tube to feed him, or basically let him starve to death. And they say that he signed a prenuptial saying that
a living will.
Yeah, living will, saying that he don't want to be, under any kind of machinery, and they was going to let him starve to death. I cried in front of the nurse and said, "You cannot do that." And he said, "But he signed that. He don't want nothing to support his life." I said, "But wait a minute, he have a phony for almost 30 years. So that's, he allowed himself to put that on himself." We have to make sure that the most vulnerable people in New York City get the attention that they deserve. With accent or without accent, I definitely gonna work for the most vulnerable one in New York City.
So to clarify, in the example of your story, was the living will an appropriate thing for him to have, or something that he shouldn't have had?
He had it, but that's not what he expressed. To be able to feed somebody, that's an important issue and delicate for just one doctor to interpret. I know my father, I don't know what he said. He said, "I don't, if I die, let me go." He didn't say, "Allow them to starve me to death." So I know my father, so I know what was his will. And we have to make sure that the doctor doesn't take the interpretation on his hand. We have to defend the most vulnerable one. That's what I'm talking about.
So back to the question though about paid sick leave. The current bill, which calls for employers to allow a certain number of days off that employees are paid when they're sick. Do you support that bill?
In a way, yes.
In a way, no?
Yeah, we have to make sure that our workers, our hard workers, get the benefit that they deserve.
Okay, so you don't have a stance on the current paid sick leave before the city council?
That's something that they're passing right now, and I have to look closer to it.
Okay. While the liberals in this room, the progressives in this room, this is a question I asked to Sal Albanese as well, are passionate and ideological, they're also very practical. A lot of people would say that your race, it's raised less money, it's polling less, you're less known around the city. Is it practical for an organization to believe that you have a pathway to victory? What is your pathway to victory, and why should organizations dedicate their resources to helping you get there? Or is it a quixotic errand?
I believe that New York does not want a career politician. I know everybody's looking for the opportunity to be able to achieve that goal. I believe that my record speaks by itself. A community of faith have been, bullied in a way because they cannot, feel that they are represented well enough in the government. When I talk about communities, I'm talking about different ethnics, not only Latino, Korean, Chinese, African Americans. 75% of all New York, one way or other, they find themselves belonging to any of this group. I believe we are building a good coalition. I am proud to say I have the support of many Orthodox Jews, and the support of many Catholics, the support of the Latino community, the old Democrats. We belong in this party. We don't want to go to another party because we are Democrats. And if we are good to vote, we also are good to participate in this kind of democratic exercises.
Could you give an example of how the religious community has been bullied?
Well, there's many issues. I'll give you a good example. In my church, they issued us a ticket because the curtains of the church, they were too long. And that happened 4 weeks ago.
Sorry, the what?
The curtains of the church were too long. We got a ticket for that.
I promise you, as somebody who runs a theater, we get inspected by fire marshals as well, and if our curtains are not fire treated or if they're inappropriate, we also get ticketed.
Okay.
How is that an example of bullying targeting the religious community?
There's many examples that we could give, but the most important thing in refer of the question that you asked, many people, they feel like they don't have the representation in City Hall that they need. We feel like there is a big disconnection between the current politician and the reality of all New Yorkers. When you hear about politicians trying to close a bridge for a marathon in the middle of a crisis while they're still fishing out bodies down the river. That made me think that there's a big disconnection from many politicians and the reality. When you hear many politicians bragging on how well we recovered from Hurricane Sandy, and yet I go to Coney Island and I find more than 40 people hunting for food in the garbage can, then I say to myself, these people, they might talk good and they might make you laugh, but the reality, they are the ones who are in control right now. They are the ones who making this policy. What they have done for the undocumented immigrant in 12 years in power, they have done nothing. Erick Salgado is going to make the difference if you give me the opportunity. Once again, I speak with an accent, but I don't think with an accent. I'm very intelligent, and I'm going to run New York City in the best way possible.
And I think you're right that a lot of people do feel disconnected from the current mayor, and that's why we're excited that there's an open race. We are now with 1 minute left in your 25 minutes, so you have a chance for a closing statement. Anything else you want to make sure we leave with to know about your campaign?
I am Democrat, and I love this party. Most of the Latino, they are Democrats as well. We have worked in different levels in this city. We have contributed to this city in the best way possible. Once again, my father came to New York in 1926 from Puerto Rico. I love this city. I would like to have the opportunity to be able to contribute to this city the best way possible, working for all New Yorkers. I'm not a hater. I'm a person who has helped many people in need. I believe that because I have my own personal traditional value, I shouldn't be demonized as a person who is against nobody. I'm going to work for all New Yorkers. And if you are sick and tired of the career politician, give me the opportunity, at least listen to the different idea I have to be able to run this city and make it be the best city of the world. Thank you so much.
And final question, what website should people go to if they want to learn more?
SalgadoNYC.com, SalgadoNYC.com.
SalgadoNYC.com, let's give a thank you.
Thank you.